AMN Drivetime is sponsored by Aishin, your trusted and reliable source for aftermarket automotive components and technology. Visit AishinAftermarket.com for more information.
Chintan, welcome to AMN Drivetime, sponsored by our good friends at Aishin.
Thank you for having me here.
We're glad to have you. For the benefit of our audience, we're sitting in Las Vegas during Industry Week at the Apex show, and we just came, coincidentally, from the DRiV press conference just a couple of floors up. One of the things you spoke about at that press conference was bold moves. There were several slides talking about it. I thought we could just start this conversation and let you talk about bold moves a little bit.
Great question, Bill. Here's what I can tell you. One of the taglines we have at DRiV is built to make bold moves. So by bold moves, what do we mean? We are talking about moves that have not been done within DRiV's 100-year-old history. We are talking about moves that have not been done by a lot of people in the industry even. So let me shed some light on it. I'll give you a couple of examples, right? One thing that comes to mind is the AutoStore that we have in Smyrna, which is our largest distribution center right outside Nashville for US and Canada. And in there we have installed this technology called AutoStore, where you have 125 robots which are working in harmony, picking and placing products at the rate of over 100 lines per hour. So in a typical distribution center, you would have manual operations and they would do 20 to 40 lines per hour. You're talking about over 100. There are not many people in the auto aftermarket industries that have ventured to do this kind of state-of-the-art technology, just exploring the art of the possible. And that's what we do at DRiV, right? One of the things we talked about at the press conference was bumper-to-bumper solutions. There are not many aftermarket companies out there that offer a one-stop shop, everything within a vehicle to its end customer, and that's exactly where we are headed.
Terrific. For the benefit of our audience, tell us about your background. Kind of where were you born, where were you raised, quickly through your career, just so people get a feel for who you are.
How much time you have
We've got 4 hours.
So I was born in India,
Okay.
Born and raised in India, and I moved to the US in the year 2001. Lived in many different places within the United States. I have been with Tenneco. Tenneco is the parent company of DRiV for about a little over 2 years now. And prior to that, I spent time with Apollo. Apollo is the private equity firm that owns Tenneco and Drive. And Apollo got me from International. International is one of the major trucking OEMs. And at International, I used to run their aftermarket parts division.
Okay.
So I have a bit of experience when it comes to aftermarket parts in the automotive space.
Great. And so you've lived in a number of places in the U.S. Is one of them your favorite? It's got to be Detroit, doesn't it?
Actually, I do not live in Detroit. Okay. I live in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
My job requires me to be near a major airport, which makes flying in and out really easy. I choose to be in Chicago. We have been there since 2009.
Okay.
In terms of my favorite places to live, I will have to, I'm a little biased. I will stay with Chicago.
Okay. Terrific place. I lived there out of college and I met my wife there.
Wonderful.
Great city. So can you share with our audience too, you would think everybody would know, but maybe not. What's the relationship between Tenneco and DRiV? And what do you go by and when do you use which term?
Great question. So Tenneco is the parent company of DRiV.
Okay.
Tenneco is one of the largest tier 1 auto suppliers. Tenneco has had a long and storied history that goes back 100 years. In fact, our aftermarket roots are even deeper than that. So DRiV, some of our brands are over 125 years old. Tenneco has 4 business units: Clean Air, Powertrain, DRiV, and Performance Solutions. DRiV is the aftermarket wing of Tenneco.
Okay. And which brands are in DRiV? What are the top brands in DRiV? So that's Moog, Fel-Pro, Champion.
Great question. And here's what I'll tell you. At DRiV, we have 32 different brands.
Oh, okay.
32. And guess what, Bill? we have a very rich heritage where 14 of our 32 brands are over 100 years old. So all of our brands, I'd like to think, are very well known. Of course, Moog is out there, Walker exhaust. You have Monroe shocks and suspension.
Sure.
You have Champion spark
Yes.
plugs. Outside the US, Ferraro brakes is a huge one. We even sell DRiV brand in India.
Sure.
We do engine oil. So a lot of our brands are very commonly known
Yep.
in the industry, and all of our brands are either number one or number two. We are in the premium brand space,
Yep.
but we also do a lot of private label for our customers.
Sure. So maybe just high level, where it's obviously November of 2024 right now. How has 24 been, and how do things look and feel for you guys for 2025?
Here's what I can tell you, Bill. 2024 has been one hell of a year. So DRiV is truly global. We have operations in 53 countries. We have 4 major regions, US and Canada. Then you have Europe and Middle East and Africa. Then you have Asia Pacific, and you have Mexico and Latin America. On a year-over-year basis, in a lot of this global region, we are actually seeing double-digit growth. Overall, as a DRiV, I'm going to say we are up in the single digit. We do see overall aftermarket in US and Canada to be down roughly 1 to 2% on a year-over-year basis.
Okay.
One thing that I can tell you is I'm really proud of the DRiV team globally that has delivered year-over-year growth in a down market.
Not easy to do.
Not easy to do.
You briefly touched on it, Chintan, and people know DRiV as a corporate name, but you talked about the brands. People really know the brands. I mean,
Right.
DRiV is fine and Tenneco is fine, but the brands are the brands. I think it'd be great for the audience if you'd be willing to just dig in a little bit more on the brands. I mean, you touched on them high level. Like I didn't know about that oil brand in Italy, but if you could elaborate on the individual brands, I think that'd be helpful for our audience.
Sure, would love to. In fact, let me just give you a quick anecdote. I was at a automotive repair shop with one of trying to get the brakes done for my car, and I took my 9-year-old daughter with me, and right in that repair shop, she saw some of the brand names called Monroe and Wagner, right? And these are some of the very well-known brand names. She knows all of those brand names. Now she does know that, Daddy is part of the DRiV organization, but she was able to make that quick connection, and it was just a matter of great pride. So I do really want people to know that a lot of these very well-known brands are part of the DRiV umbrella. Here's what I can tell you. Monroe is a shocks and struts brand. Again, going back at least 100 years.
Yep.
Same thing when you talk about Moog. Moog is around the steering, steering and suspension parts. When you talk about Walker exhaust, we make DPF, we make DOCs, we make a lot of components that for emissions, related to emissions, complex emission assemblies at our Harrisonburg plant in Virginia. Then we also offer Fel-Pro gaskets, FP diesel branded products. So this include pistons, piston rings, valves, valve seats and guides. Again, depending upon the market we play in, our brands may be slightly different. So Wagner is a huge brand in braking in US and Canada. When you start going into Europe, people there are used to the Ferraro brand.
Oh, right, sure.
Right? And we are learning that different brands have different perspective or outlook depending upon the region that you're playing in. When you come to Asia Pacific, there is a tremendous amount of demand for the DRiV brand, even Federal-Mogul brand. So that's why we do a lot of components for the internal combustion engine. We know the internal combustion engine, and that's our value proposition for selling the engine oil, because we know the engine.
So to talk about the Federal-Mogul brand, which is Federal-Mogul brands? Are those engine parts Federal-Mogul?
Yeah.
Because that used to be the name of Federal-Mogul when you were acquiring a lot of these brands way back. When you were buying Fel-Pro and Moog and Champion, Federal-Mogul was the parent company, right?
Correct. So Federal-Mogul continues to be part of Tenneco.
Okay.
And like I said, Tenneco has 4 different business units.
Sure.
One of the business units is powertrain.
Yep.
So a lot of products which are manufactured by powertrain, example pistons or piston rings,
So
or rings and liners.
Is Sealed Power still a brand?
Exactly.
Do you
Yes.
use it? Do you guys still use the brand
Correct.
name?
We do, right? So, and then we also have National Seals.
Oh, sure.
National Seals is a big aftermarket brand, right?
Yes.
So Federal-Mogul brands are our OE branded products, which are used in the OEM for vehicle production.
Got it. I'm glad to have that clarity because Federal-Mogul was a aftermarket name for a lot of years, right? But it's sort of now strictly OE.
Well, we do both. We do OE and we also do aftermarket for Federal-Mogul.
Okay, got it. So we talked about it just momentarily at the press conference, but what do you think on the future of EVs and the evolving technologies in the business? And how does that relate to what you guys are doing today and what you're thinking about and how far ahead of you? Do you want to be like cutting edge? Do you want to be kind of just in time? Or what are you thinking with all that?
That's a very loaded question, and I'll do my best to answer it objectively. I think the answer to that question can be divided into two phases. One is what we call the passenger car segment, and the second is what we call commercial truck and off-highway segment.
Okay.
The later is slightly slower to electrify than the passenger car segment.
Okay.
Now, regardless of the application you're talking about, there are two things. Number one, we see a very long aftermarket trail for the internal combustion engine. So what do we mean by that, right? We mean that the sweet spot in aftermarket for the passenger car segment is after the vehicle warranty has expired. So it could be anywhere from the 3-year period to the 15-year, 18-year time period, depending upon where you want to play. Do you want to play in the first owner or the second owner, right? So my point here is the vehicles that are being produced even today, majority of them being internal combustion engine, and I know that number varies by country, we see a huge demand of aftermarket products for the internal combustion engine going into late 2040s. Having said that, a lot of our product portfolio as it stands today is actually agnostic to the powertrain. You're going to need brakes. For an electric vehicle, you're going to need shocks and suspensions. Today we have shocks and suspension for an electric vehicle manufacturer, but we also have it for a traditional diesel or a gas engine manufacturer. So braking, shocks and studs, steering and suspension, they're all pretty much agnostic to the type of powertrain being used. And then the second thing would be around commercial truck and off-highway. That region or that segment is slower to be impacted by electrification. So the demand there, we see that to be well into the 2050s.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned heavy duty because you talked about it at the press conference. And just expound on what you guys are thinking about heavy duty wise. And that's an important part of your business, right?
It is a very important part of our business, and I can tell you it's a rapidly growing part of our business. I don't mind sharing these numbers with you too, Bill, is commercial truck and off-highway today makes up for roughly about 11% of our total revenues.
Okay.
We believe we have the potential to double that number within the next 3 to 4 years.
As a percentage of your business?
As a percentage of the business. And remember, our pie is also getting bigger.
Yeah.
But the CTOH share of that pie is also getting bigger, in fact 2x. We actually announced at the press conference today, right? What are we looking at? We are looking at commercial axles. We are looking at turbochargers, right? These are the type of product that we have not offered before, earlier. This is the first time. Then is coming starters and alternators.
Right.
Likewise, a lot of products which are high usage, high volume, big market segment are being launched across the globe by DRiV.
And the other thing I think you might want to mention, just mention Garage Gurus and how that fits in for Federal-Mogul. I remember many years ago, I went to the first Garage Guru. I think it opened either in Brooklyn or Queens. And it was a big to-do and a big grand opening. It was pretty cool. That might have been, 10 years ago or so. It was your very first one.
I'm glad you asked me that question. And for the audience here, these questions were not rehearsed. Here's what I can tell you is Garage Guru is an industry icon for us. Okay, Garage Guru is not a hard part that we are selling to a customer. It is actually a service that we are offering to a customer, and more importantly, the installing technician. I have been to a couple of Garage Guru's workshops, and I will encourage the listeners here that if you haven't tuned into one, we actually offer classes or we offer live demonstration of Garage Gurus on Facebook and other social media channels. It is super impressive. And the way Garage Gurus conduct themselves is they are pretty much brand agnostic. They will actually teach you how to do it the right way the first time.
Is it brand agnostic as long as it's a Tenneco Drive brand?
Correct. So I would love for it to be focused around that. But here's what I will tell you. Garage Gurus will come back and they're not going to say, hey, this is the Monroe shock and strut or, this is competition.
Sure.
We are intentionally keeping Garage Gurus separate from the brand. It is a service we offer to our customers. Many of them offer private label solutions too.
Sure.
Right? So we have to be mindful of that. The whole aim of Garage Gurus is to make life easier for the installing technician. And they do it in a very, very admirable way. We'll be more happier when they use, if they use Drive products, but the whole intention of Garage Gurus is to be brand agnostic.
So, Chintan, it is tradition on AMN Drivetime that we do something called Lightning Round.
Great.
And I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you're going to give me a quick answer.
I will try.
All right, you ready?
Please.
All right. This is a little bit loaded. What's your favorite philanthropic focus?
Feed My Starving Children. So it's a charity near and dear to my heart. What I can tell you is that it does the work of feeding hungry children in multiple countries worldwide. And I truly believe that the best gift that you can give is not just your money, but your time and your attention. So that's a charity that myself and I have encouraged my team, and we have actually had many volunteering sessions at Feed My Starving Children, where we package holistic, nutritious meal for underprivileged children in developing countries.
That's terrific. So are you a beach vacation guy or a mountain vacation guy?
Beach vacation guy, any day.
Who is your childhood hero?
That is a loaded question. I have not had a single hero, that I would actually look up to. But if you had to ask me, one person that comes to mind is Mahatma Gandhi. And the reason I say that is because of his resilience. How you fall down 9 but get up 10 times. Using non-violence as your biggest armor. So Mahatma Gandhi is someone that I've looked up to throughout my life.
Would you rather be too hot or too cold?
I would rather be too cold.
Best piece of advice for someone just starting out in the aftermarket. In fact, there's a person here that you're working with, a young person's here. So what would you give a young person like the ones here about starting off in the aftermarket?
The best advice I can give anyone, whether it's aftermarket or outside the aftermarket industry, is don't let someone tell you no. Trust your gut and do it anyways. Either you're going to succeed, and even if you fail, you would have learned something.
What's one of your favorite books that you've ever read?
I do read a lot. It is tough to pick a single book, but one book which comes to mind is a book called Execution by Larry Bossidy and Ram Charan.
Yeah, Larry Bossidy, what was CEO of what?
I believe Honeywell.
Honeywell, yes, right. Famous guy.
And that book is about strategy, people, and operations. It is about, I read a lot of corporate books, right? And it talks about how to create an A+ culture within an organization that drives sustainable results. And if you ask me, outside of business books, the other one that I've really enjoyed reading these days is a book by Ursula Burns. She is the CEO of Xerox. Where You Are Is Not Who You Are. It's more of an autobiography, but it talks about her journey from a middle-class neighborhood in New York City to her rise to become one of the CEOs, one of the first African-American CEOs to lead a Fortune 500 company.
Last one. If you had a bunch of free time, which you probably don't, but if you did, any hobby you would like to pick up?
I would love to run a marathon. I am a runner today. I do a lot of short distances. In fact, the first thing I do when I get into a hotel is try and run. But what is on my list to do, I've done half marathons. I've never done a full marathon, but I would love to train for a marathon. My schedule just doesn't allow me to do one yet.
Chintan, great to have you on AMN Drive Time, sponsored by Aishan.
Pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
AMN Drive Time is sponsored by Aishan, your trusted and reliable source for aftermarket automotive components and technology. Visit aishanaftermarket.com for more information.